My beloved child, stop scrolling for a moment, because what is finding you right now did not arrive by accident. There is a reason your chest tightened before this message even began. There is a reason your spirit feels restless tonight while the world around you keeps pretending everything is normal. Something has shifted. Something unseen has already begun moving behind the curtain of your life, and even though you cannot fully explain it yet, your soul has sensed it for days. You thought this season would unfold one way. You thought certain people would stay committed to their plans. You believed familiar traditions would continue as they always had. You expected laughter in certain rooms, predictable conversations, routine celebrations, crowded tables, exchanged gifts, rehearsed smiles, music filling the background while everyone acted as though nothing had changed. But heaven saw what you could not. And now, the plans are collapsing. Not because of chaos. Not because of bad timing. Not even because of conflict. Your person just canceled their Christmas plans because something far deeper has been pulling at them in silence. Something they have tried to ignore. Something they buried underneath obligations, distractions, pride, confusion, fear, and endless noise. And tonight, whether they admit it openly or not, they cannot run from it anymore. You have felt their distance. You noticed the strange pauses in conversations. The moments where they almost said something important, and then stopped themselves. The unread messages. The sudden disappearances. The emotional walls that seemed to rise overnight. You wondered if they were losing interest. You wondered if someone else had taken your place. You questioned your intuition because outwardly they continued pretending everything was fine. But deep inside, you felt an ache that would not leave you alone. Listen carefully. The silence was never empty. While you were trying to make sense of their actions, an invisible war was unfolding inside them. Every crowded room began exhausting them. Every fake smile became heavier. Every invitation started feeling meaningless. Even the holiday lights that once comforted them suddenly felt hollow. Because when the soul is being awakened to something real, ordinary distractions stop working. And your person has been fighting an awakening they did not expect. Not an awakening built on perfection. Not one wrapped in certainty. But the terrifying kind. The kind that dismantles illusions. The kind that forces someone to confront the truth about what they truly feel. The kind that makes them stare at the ceiling late at night unable to sleep because one thought keeps returning no matter how hard they push it away. You. Yes, beloved child, you. Your name has echoed through their mind in moments you know nothing about. In grocery store parking lots. At red lights. In the middle of family conversations they barely heard. During songs they tried to skip because the memories hurt too much. They have been haunted by the realization that no matter how far they run emotionally, some invisible thread keeps leading them back toward you. And that realization frightened them more than anyone knows. Because your connection was never shallow. That is why it survived silence. That is why distance failed to erase it. That is why even confusion could not fully destroy it. Some connections are built on convenience. Others are built on chemistry. But this one reached somewhere deeper, somewhere neither of you were fully prepared to touch. And now the season that was supposed to distract them, is exposing them instead. While everyone else rushes toward celebration, your person has secretly been withdrawing inward. Not because they hate the holidays. Not because they want isolation. But because pretending became too painful. Every plan they agreed to felt heavier afterward. Every cheerful conversation drained them. Every gathering reminded them of what was missing. You must understand this clearly. People can ignore their heart for a while, but eventually the heart grows louder than the performance. And recently, your person has reached the point where they can no longer silence what their spirit has been trying to say. That is why they canceled the plans. Not for convenience. Not for laziness. Not because they suddenly became antisocial. They canceled because somewhere deep inside, they are emotionally unraveling. Because the version of themselves that could keep avoiding the truth is beginning to crack. And the terrifying part for them is that the truth keeps leading back to you. You felt the shift, didn't you? That strange emotional pull these last few nights. The random memories. The sudden urge to check your phone. The dreams that felt too vivid to dismiss. The heaviness in your chest that arrived without explanation. You thought perhaps you were imagining things. But souls recognize movement long before the mind catches up. And heaven has allowed your spirit to sense that something important is happening behind the scenes. Still, there is something you do not know yet. Something your person has hidden from everyone, even from themselves. Because while they have been trying to appear composed outwardly, inwardly they have been replaying one particular moment involving you over and over again. One sentence, one memory, one goodbye, one look, one unfinished conversation. It circles endlessly in their mind like a storm they cannot escape. They remember details you assumed they forgot. The tone in your voice. The disappointment in your eyes. The way you withdrew emotionally after giving them chance after chance. The moment they realized your silence no longer felt temporary. And since then, something inside them has refused to settle. They told themselves you would eventually disappear from their heart. They convinced themselves time would weaken the connection. They distracted themselves with work, routines, entertainment, obligations, and other people's expectations. But the more they tried to bury the truth, the stronger it returned. Because souls cannot be manipulated as easily as thoughts. And lately, your absence has become louder than any crowd around them. That is the part nobody sees. They appear functional. They smile when necessary. They participate when required. But internally they have been drifting further and further away from everything that once distracted them. Especially now. Especially during this season. Because holidays magnify emotional truth. The lights become mirrors. The music awakens memories. The traditions expose emptiness. And your person has reached a moment where they can no longer fake emotional peace. Something sacred has cornered them emotionally. Something unavoidable. And tonight, as others finalize travel plans and prepare celebrations, your person sits with thoughts they cannot escape anymore. Thoughts about what was lost. Thoughts about what could have been. Thoughts about whether they ruined something heaven once placed directly in front of them. You see, beloved child, there were moments when they almost reached out. Moments you never knew existed. Their fingers hovered over messages they never sent. They opened your conversations late at night just to reread old words. They searched for signs that maybe you still cared. Then fear stopped them. Pride silenced them. Uncertainty paralyzed them. Because the deeper the connection, the more terrifying vulnerability becomes. And your person has been terrified. Terrified that they waited too long. Terrified you moved on. Terrified you no longer see them the same way. Terrified that if they finally reveal the truth, they may discover they destroyed the very thing they secretly needed most. So instead of confronting those fears directly, they kept postponing emotional honesty. Until now. Until this season began pressing against every emotional wall they built. Until the noise stopped numbing them. Until they realized crowded celebrations could not distract them from an empty heart. That realization broke something open inside them. And once it opened, they could not close it again. That is why the cancellation happened suddenly. To others, it may appear insignificant. A simple change of plans. A personal decision. A holiday adjustment. But spiritually, it marked the beginning of something much larger. Because when someone starts walking away from distractions they once relied upon, it often means the soul is preparing to face what truly matters. And whether they fully understand it yet or not, your person is being pulled toward emotional truth, toward unfinished feelings, toward a connection they can no longer explain away logically, toward you. But listen carefully now, because this is where the story deepens. There is something your person has not confessed to anyone, not friends, not family, not even the version of themselves they show the world. Sometimes late at night, they imagine what it would feel like if you suddenly appeared again, not casually, not as strangers, but honestly, rawly, without defenses. They imagine hearing your voice after all this time. They imagine what they would say first. They imagine apologizing, explaining, confessing everything they buried. And every time they imagine it, emotion overwhelms them more than expected. Because deep down, they know this connection changed them permanently, even if they tried pretending otherwise. You were never just another person in their life. That is what frightened them most. You touched places inside them nobody else reached, places they themselves avoided. And when someone awakens dormant parts of the soul, the experience becomes impossible to forget. That is why even small reminders of you shake them unexpectedly. A scent, a song, a phrase, a season, a city street, a passing memory. Suddenly the emotional walls crack again. Suddenly they feel everything at once. And tonight, those emotions are stronger than ever before. Because the cancellation was not random. It was emotional surrender disguised as a schedule change. It was the soul saying, I cannot keep pretending. You must understand how significant that is. Most people spend years hiding from themselves. Years performing. Years avoiding uncomfortable truths. Years filling every silence with distraction so they never have to confront what their heart is actually screaming. But your person has reached exhaustion. Spiritual exhaustion. Emotional exhaustion. The kind that arrives when someone has resisted truth for too long. And now the resistance is weakening. That is why you have been feeling this strange energetic pull recently. Because something inside them is finally softening. Slowly, painfully, unavoidably. Still, there is another layer you cannot see yet. Because this is not only about missing you. It is about regret. Heavy regret. The kind that arrives quietly before eventually consuming someone from the inside. Your person has begun realizing how many moments they mishandled. How many opportunities they allowed fear to sabotage. How many times they disguised love as distance. How many times they expected you to understand what they never properly communicated. And those realizations have not been gentle. They hit hardest during quiet moments. Especially now. Especially during nights filled with holiday lights and reflective silence. While others celebrate externally, your person has been confronting memories internally. And some of those memories have brought them to tears. Yes, tears they would never openly admit. Because there are emotions too deep for performance. Moments when the soul finally breaks beneath the weight of everything unspoken. And lately, your person has experienced several of those moments alone. Alone in rooms filled with silence. Alone during late drives. Alone while staring at old photographs. Alone while hearing your laughter echo through memory. They keep asking themselves the same question. What if I lost the person who was actually meant for me? That question has become impossible for them to escape. And the more they try avoiding it, the louder it grows. Which brings me to something important you must hear tonight. Do not mistake silence for absence of feeling. Some people go quiet not because they feel nothing, but because they feel too much. Your person did not withdraw because the connection lacked meaning. They withdrew because it carried too much meaning, too much intensity, too much vulnerability, too much emotional truth. You awaken parts of them that demanded transformation, and transformation terrifies people who have spent their lives surviving through emotional control. So they ran from what they could not control. But no matter how far they emotionally traveled, something kept following them. A memory, a feeling, a pull, a presence. You. And now the holidays, the very thing they hoped would distract them, have intensified everything instead. That is why ordinary plans suddenly felt unbearable. Because sitting at decorated tables pretending their heart was elsewhere became impossible. Because laughter sounded empty when their spirit felt unresolved. Because somewhere deep inside, they know there is unfinished energy between you. Unfinished words. Unfinished emotions. Unfinished destiny. And beloved child, unfinished things have a way of returning when least expected. Especially during seasons where the soul becomes more sensitive. Have you noticed how strange this month has felt? How emotions seem amplified. How memories arrive without warning. How certain songs suddenly hit differently. How your intuition has become louder lately. This is not coincidence. There are moments in life when heaven allows emotional truths to rise to the surface all at once. Moments where distractions fail. Moments where hidden feelings refuse to stay buried. Moments where the soul demands honesty. Your person is standing inside one of those moments right now, and they are struggling to hold themselves together, because another realization has begun haunting them recently. They may not be able to replace this connection, no matter how hard they try, no matter who enters their life, no matter how much time passes. Some souls leave fingerprints too deep to erase. And yours did. That realization shattered the illusion that moving on would be simple. Because emotionally, they never fully moved on at all. They only learned how to suppress. There is a difference. And suppression eventually collapses under emotional pressure. Especially during sacred seasons like this one. Especially during lonely nights. Especially when the heart grows tired of lying. You may wonder why this message is finding you now. Because heaven needed you to understand something before the next shift unfolds. Your person's cancellation was not an ending. It was the beginning of emotional exposure. The beginning of truth surfacing. The beginning of walls weakening. The beginning of a confrontation they can no longer postpone. And something else is approaching quickly now. Something they themselves do not yet fully realize is coming. A moment. A trigger. A conversation. An unexpected emotional collision. One event that will force them to stop running from what they truly feel. You can sense it already, can't you? That strange anticipation in your spirit. Like something important is drawing near. Like the atmosphere around your connection has changed. Because it has. Even now, while you hear these words, your person is wrestling with emotions they cannot organize anymore. One moment they try convincing themselves to stay distant. The next moment they feel overwhelming urges to reach toward you again. One moment pride speaks. The next moment longing destroys every argument pride created. They are exhausted from fighting themselves. Exhausted from pretending indifference. Exhausted from acting emotionally detached while secretly carrying you everywhere inside their heart. And tonight, for the first time in a long time, they are dangerously close to surrendering to the truth completely. But there is still one fear holding them back. One final wound. One terrifying possibility they cannot stop imagining. What if you no longer want them when they finally gather the courage to return? That fear has been tormenting them silently. Because despite everything, despite the distance, despite the confusion, despite the silence, they never truly prepared themselves for the possibility of losing you forever. And recently, that possibility has started feeling real. Too real. Which is why the cancellation affected them more deeply than anyone around them understands. It was not merely about plans. It was about isolation, reflection, truth, a soul reaching its breaking point. And beloved child, souls at breaking points often make life-changing decisions shortly afterward. That is why tonight matters. That is why this moment matters. Because while the world sees someone simply canceling holiday arrangements, heaven sees someone standing on the edge of emotional awakening. Someone about to confront feelings they buried for far too long. Someone about to realize that the connection they tried escaping may actually be the very thing their soul has been searching for all along. But there is something even bigger I have not revealed yet. Something hidden beneath all of this. Because your person is not only questioning their feelings. They are beginning to question the entire path their life has taken without you in it. And once that questioning fully begins, everything changes. Because when someone starts realizing they built a life around emotional avoidance instead of emotional truth, the unraveling becomes impossible to stop. And your person has already begun unraveling. Quietly, privately, deeply. The signs are everywhere now. Their energy has changed. Their sleep has changed. Their focus has changed. Even people around them have noticed something feels off, though nobody understands the real reason. Nobody knows your name is hidden underneath the silence consuming them. Nobody knows they secretly compare every emotional experience to the connection they had with you. Nobody knows how often they revisit old memories in private. Nobody knows how many times they almost broke down and contacted you already. But heaven knows. And tonight, heaven is telling you this because the next chapter has already started unfolding, even though neither of you can fully see it yet. Still, you must prepare yourself emotionally, because when truths buried this deeply finally rise to the surface, they do not emerge gently. They arrive like storms, sudden, overwhelming, impossible to ignore. And very soon, your person will face a moment where continuing to hide becomes more painful than finally speaking the truth. That moment is closer than you think, closer than they think, closer than anyone realizes. In fact, something is already happening behind the scenes at this very hour that will push them toward a decision they cannot avoid much longer. A decision connected directly to you. And when that moment arrives, the words they have spent so long suppressing may finally escape their lips.